Hello and welcome to Not Replaced Yet. I'm Jesse Bushcar, and if this is your first time joining us, this is the show where we help people upskill, reskill, and just plain get skills around the tidal wave of AI that we're faced with today. Normally I'm joined by my brother Nick, but this video is a little different than our usual speed. It's a tutorial for using Make.com, a great no or low-code platform for connecting apps and automating workflows in order to implement AI for systemic and systematic marketing strategy needs. Specifically, I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT inside of Make.com to create customizable marketing personas, sometimes called ICPs or design targets, that are data-driven, fit to your own business, and most importantly, able to level up your overall marketing game. We consider this an intermediate tutorial, i.e. it may be a little over your head if you're just learning how to write prompts, or it may be underneath your level if you're a seasoned developer. But if you're getting your feet wet with AI and automation beyond the basics, then stick around. And be sure to watch our entire episode 7, where we expand our AI usage to funnel strategy, Jungian archetypes, and more. All right, that's enough of the upfront. Let's get into it. Yeah, this is more intermediate than beginner. It does not require technical chops, but it does start getting into some technical things. So don't be afraid. It's not going to be overwhelming. We're going to build a simple scenario. We're going to use some tools here. So let's see. Let's share the screen. And the first tool that we're going to use is called Make.com. In fact, this is the only tool we're going to use in this instance because the other one is a Google Sheet. And hopefully you have some proficiency with Google Sheets. You can use different data stores, but really Make.com is the crux of this example. So I'm in Make.com. This is not going to be a how to set up an account tutorial. This is going to be kind of once you're set up in here, but take a look. It's a great no-code, low-code platform to connect different tools together. And hopefully after you see this walkthrough, you'll have a little bit of confidence to try it out. We're going to build 2 scenarios, and a scenario is just a set of applications, a workflow where something starts with a trigger and something ends with an output. And we're going to build 2 of those, and they're going to work together, and you'll see what we mean in a moment. Great. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the first module in the Make.com scenario, and what that's going to be is our ChatGPT module. So you can add a lot of different tools. I'm not going to go through all of them. It would take forever, but we're going to start with AI. AI will be the first one, and we actually want to create a completion. That is the language that is basically a prompt and a callback. And this is using the API behind the scenes. We actually have several different API keys that we can use, and you get to select a method, which would be a chat completion. GPT and O1 models. There is a legacy option that I couldn't really tell you why you would want to use that. And then inside of that, you have all of the different prompt models. We're going to just stick with 4.0 because it's kind of the most generally capable model. So this ChatGPT 4.0 latest system, and what latest means is that if a new one launches, then your use case will update with it. So you don't have to come in and manually update this versus some of these that were tied to dates that will eventually be deprecated as the technology evolves. So we're going to select 4.0 latest. You know what's always annoyed me? Content creators who say like and subscribe without actually giving people a reason that they should do so. I always swore that when I started creating content, I'd be different. So here goes. If you really enjoy this episode or you learn anything at all from what we share, please give us a like. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does make a difference, and we very much appreciate it. If you want to see more of this type of content, please do subscribe. We're hard at work on expansions, extensions, and explainers and more. So don't sit on the sidelines while others jump ahead of you. Subscribe today and stay ahead of the curve. If anything in this episode particularly resonates with you, please do leave a comment. We promise to read and respond to every single one. We love receiving these. Also, if we missed something or we got something wrong, we also want you to comment. We're all in this together, and we, Nick and I, have a lot to learn too, so please leave those comments. And finally, I would ask you to share this post for one or both of 2 reasons. 1, share this with anyone in your world who could benefit from creative AI education content, because that's what we're working on. Or 2, share this with your whole social network, your peers, whomever, to show them that you're investing your own time in future fluency and that they should too. Thank you for your time and consideration. Now let's get back to the content. And it's going to load a couple options for us to pass messages, which are basically prompts. Not basically, they are prompts. And so the first message, we're actually going to send two. There's it was called a system message. Now it's called a developer message. And so you can see developer system. That is the role for this first message we're going to provide. And the text content is the actual prompt. And this is where the magic happens, really. And so I'm going to paste in a prompt and then I'm going to read it. This is a pivot of a prompt that we use on one of our production client projects. And I will paste it in. I'm going to use this as a very helpful little expand window. And you can see this prompt here. So here I'm just going to read the prompt that we're starting with. Again, nothing else has happened in this scenario yet because we're starting with this ChatGPT module. The prompt reads, generate a JSON array containing a specific number to be provided as context by the context as number of profiles, synthetic respondent profiles. Each profile should be diverse and realistic, representing a plausible human participant using what you know about the likelihood of distribution of these characteristics in or near Wilmington Island, Georgia. These will be used to help plan marketing for my pizza pop-up restaurant. So basically, we're just saying, make me some personas, right? And then we give some characteristics. Each object should include the following fields. Sex can be male, female, or non-binary. Obviously, you can, add whatever your worldview is to these. The age range has some, younger to older age ranges. There is an ethnicity, which I don't know that I care about this for this. It was just in the other persona prompt. And then education, high school, some college, etc. And then I added this pizza engagement, one of the following: dislike, like okay, regularly enjoy, or favorite food. And then the requirements are to return a JSON object of exactly three, a JSON array of exactly three objects. We're going to get three of these back. And please ensure diversity across all fields, avoid homogeneity, use realistic combinations, do not include names, et cetera, right? And so we can make this prompt available to you if you're building something like this yourself, but ideally you would define what you believe are the important characteristics here. Talking to 10 different advertising strategists, they'll tell you 10 different advertising strategies to use. So we have defined our first prompt. And then I do this because just the developer system message doesn't actually prompt a return, at least in my experience. And so I'm going to add a second, a user role. And I would just say, let's look at my other one, how I was doing that. It was create 3 user profiles. So create 3 user profiles is just the second prompt after we have embedded all of these instructions in the kind of behind the scenes core of what this AI is supposed to do. So there are some other fields down here. We're not going to have any image input. The max completion tokens, I will say there's a little bug that seems to get me a lot in make.com where if I don't actually click into this, it thinks that it's empty and it will give me an error. So I always click into this. Your mileage may vary there. And then there are a few things in the advanced settings. So if you go down to show advanced settings, there's a lot of these I'm not going to read through. We don't care about predicted outputs. We're not changing the temperature, which is kind of the wildness of the response. Where am I looking for it? I always miss it. There it is. The response format, because we've asked for JSON, and for those non-technical users, JSON is just structured text. It means like labels and values are able to be extracted by other applications. We call it machine readable. JSON is just a structure that makes some text machine readable. So I'm going to say, even though we put it in the prompt, which it should respect, I'm going to say to make sure that we have it return as a JSON object. And I'm actually going to tell it to parse my JSON so that each of the elements of the return response I can use as variables in my make.com scenario. So yes. And without doing an, oh, look, I think it said it was empty. Yep. See, make.com, get on it, man. I think I've reported this as a bug, but max completion tokens is not empty. There's 2,048 tokens there. We have it. We hit save. And look, that little bug goes away. Gets me every time. All right. So let's go ahead and run this. Without connecting anything, we are sending all of that prompt and that data back to ChatGPT, and it's pretty quick, right? One of the things I love about make.com is the debugging. And so Once this happens, you have this little window and one operation happen. That's where that one is. It's kind of how they price things. But you can see what the input was, what we sent. And so you can take a look at two messages we sent. The first one was that system, the role system. And then the content was all that stuff that I read through. And then number two was just that simple create 3 user profiles. Okay. So the input we already knew. That's just interesting to know that you can see it. The output is what we care about. And so this output in bundle 1, we only got one back, the result opens up profiles, which is the JSON array that we created. And it's mapped like this because we told make.com to parse it so you can actually open it up and see. Otherwise, it would just be a big chunk of text if it wasn't parsed. And so we have a female between the age of 25 to 34. She is African American. She has a bachelor's degree, and her pizza engagement is that it is her favorite food. Number 2, we have a male in between 55 and 64. He is white. He has a high school education, and he regularly enjoys pizza. And we have a non-binary 35 to 44-year-old, Hispanic or Latino, some college, and likes pizza okay. One note here, not on make.com, but just on the definition of a persona. This is a real like loose, light way to do this. If you're a sophisticated marketer, you have your own data, you know your personas, bring that to bear here, right? If you don't know it and you don't have it, let this fill it in because it is a data layer that is trying to pull from the knowledge of the entire internet, the knowledge of the entire world to represent things accurately. But the probabilistic nature means it's never going to overrule or outweigh your own knowledge and your own first-party data. So this seems a little bit random because it kind of is. You should be bringing that to bear for yourself. And if you don't have specific persona data, but you have some, that's okay too. You can build that in here and just anchor it to what you do know about your true customer. So from here, we're going to add 2 more modules. And so the first thing we need to do is actually iterate through those 3 personas. And make.com gives us a great little tool called the Iterator. And so we're going to add the Iterator from this tools. Flow control actually is the category, how you flow through the different ways of engaging with apps. And we are going to create an array that is of our result. And we're going to iterate through each of these profiles. So we're selecting this, and you can see that inside of that, each of these have those variables that we've defined. So I'm going to save it. And again, one nice thing, don't forget to name this. Let's name this really quick. We're going to call this the not replaced yet persona generator, right? And we're going to save it. And even though it says this should not be the last one, we're going to save it anyway because we know this won't be the final iteration here. And so you see it did the same thing. We go down to result. You can see, and there will be slightly different ranges here. Oh, wait, actually, that's trying to give me the same. Interesting. It gave me very similar results. That's not always the case. But here you can see it has iterated through. It took each of those personas and took them as one bundle. That's going to be important, and I'll show you why here. So the third thing and final thing we're going to do in this scenario, remember we're doing 2, is we're going to move this data into a Google Sheet. And I've already created this not replaced yet persona builder sheet, and it has 2 tabs down here, 2 sheets, personas and narratives. We'll get to narratives in a second, but we need this information to exist and persist, as I like to say, because otherwise tomorrow when you sit down to strategize your personas, if it's not there and you have to go back to a ChatGPT thread, you're already lost, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a third and final module here, and it is a Google Sheet, and it is going to add a row. You can do lots of things with Google Sheets, very performative here. We are going to not add a sheet. Let's make sure we get to add a row. Where did you go? Cells, sheets, rows, clear a row, search a row, update a row, add a row. There we go. We want to add a row, and we're going to connect it. And I just love the little visual. Like I've been a make.com user for a long time now, and I still just love playing with the interface. A little pro tip, this auto align will bring them all right back into focus here. So to configure our Google Sheet and to get the data from our iterator into here so that we have 3 rows of our persona, we can go into the settings here. And I actually jump over here. This is the shortest way I've found it. You actually have to get the sheet ID. So I'm going to get this Google Sheet ID, and it's after the D/. So for me, it's 19, and go all the way to the next slash. That would be a URL slug segment. Copy it, Control C, come down here, search method, and enter it manually, and just paste that ID. You can go through their search engine to find your own things. This is all authenticated. It's a step you'll have to do that I'm not able to show right now because I haven't redacted my connection and reset it up. But it's pretty easy to authenticate like normal authentication happens. Now we have our spreadsheet ID here, and then we type our sheet name. In fact, I'm going to go back up, select from all, and that will allow me to paste it in and give me an autocomplete dropdown. So we want this data to go into our personas sheet name, right? And we say our table has headers, yes, because we're going to add those headers in. And let me just triple check what they're supposed to be. There we go. I'm going to copy these over. Actually, I'm just going to enter them because the copy is the other version. We're going to say, what is the sex of the individual? What is the age range? What is the ethnicity? What is the education level? And what is their pizza engagement? And because I'm picky, I'm going to bold that first row, right? So now we have a data structure in our Google Sheet, and we will enter each of the variables in. So the first variable from the iterator will be the sex because we, in column A, we labeled that there, right? So next will be age range, then ethnicity. So let's go age range, ethnicity, education, and pizza engagement, right? And that's column E. Let's just go back and check. Yep, pizza engagement is column E. Excellent. So we're going to save this, and if everything has gone well, we will generate our persona characteristics here. We will separate them out individually so that we can then insert them into Google Sheets in this row. Let's hit it. Number 1, and then we loop through, and that didn't do it at all. Interesting. What happened? What went wrong? The result was there. Oh, I see what happened. Look, this was no longer profile. This is tricky, okay? And Nick, I'm glad you had us build this because this is something that can trip people up a lot. I could have used the one that's already in existence and we wouldn't have run into these realistic bugs. When you generate JSON, the JSON labels, the keys as they're called, are important to be the same. And so what it did was the previous one called them profiles, and then this last one generated it as respondents. So what we said, whoops, not that button. What we said was to loop through result.profiles, not result.respondents. And so it ran, and then this did not find any profiles. It found respondents, and that broke. So let's just update.
So Jesse, I have a question for you actually.
Yeah.
On that. How could we normalize that? Because we would want this to work all the time, and we don't have to want to keep changing that. So what is the actual solution for something like that?
Yeah, excellent question, and that's exactly what I was changing here. So I'm modifying our system prompt or our developer prompt. I'm trying to get used to the new language to also say for JSON structure, output this as an object named profiles, right? And so that's a really simple way to just tell it what to do. If we were to put this into production, I would want to have a full example of the JSON in my prompt. I would want to have, the entire structure that I want, and then it should be a lot more adherent to what we tell it to. But I'm thinking that this is going to be good enough. So we don't need to change profiles because I told it to use profiles. I did say lowercase, so let's just be really particular. If you're a developer, you don't have to be told to be that particular. Oh, no, I didn't. I have it as lowercase, and it's looking for lowercase. Awesome. Save. Let's see. Everybody hold your mouth right. Boom, and it got it. We know it got it because it didn't end here. It actually passed it all through, which means it iterated through, found data, and passed it all the way through. And so what's going to happen when we look over here, look at this, we now have data that exists in our structure. I'm going to unbold that because I'm picky again. And so we have our 3 individual persona characteristics that were generated and now exist outside of ChatGPT. I know this is a long way to get there, but we now have an engine that can create characteristics and we can modify the instructions and modify them. Okay, so we're halfway there. Let's show you the second scenario. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to hit save. We're going to go back to scenarios and we're going to create another new scenario. And this time, we're not going to start with OpenAI or ChatGPT. We're going to start with Google Sheets because what we want is we want to draft off of the data that we just created. So let's start with Google Sheets and we're going to search rows because we just want to get all the rows, right? And so right now, we're going to do the same thing. Select from all, copy and paste your spreadsheet ID, and we're going to get the data from that personas sheet. And because we're just getting the data, we don't actually have to specify what data we're getting. We want all of it. The table contains headers. That's great. Save. And so that will get anything in this. If we go regenerate this because we've updated our prompt, this new scenario will go get the new data because it just reaches onto that sheet and pulls that data in. Okay. So the second thing we're going to do now that we have each of these is we're going to create, actually, let me double check. I'm using my references here. Great. The second piece we're going to do is we're adding in AI again. We're adding in a create completion from ChatGPT, very similar to what we did in the first one. And we're going to make sure it's using our correct authentication. And we're going to create a chat completion again. I'm going to hopefully avoid that annoying bug by deleting and re-adding 8 there for output tokens. I'm going to come back down to GPT-4o, not system. I want system latest. Sorry, hold on. Let's go back, select the right one. 4o, a little higher, 4o system latest. Cool. And we have another prompt that I'm going to paste in. This one is going to take the characteristics and create a narrative. And again, this first one will be a developer slash system message. And I'm going to paste it in and I'll read it to you because again, this is one that we use elsewhere. I already had it developed. So based on the following demographic characteristics, generate a fictional persona with a believable first-person narrative. This narrative should be 2 paragraphs long and reflect both statistically plausible realities and a touch of creative randomness to humanize the character. Output only a single object in clean JSON format with 2 fields. Name, which is a realistic, demographically appropriate first name, no last name. And narrative, a first-person story, 2 paragraphs long, describing the character's life situation and worldview. The story should sound natural and human, as if this person were describing their life in the conversation. Their worldview should align with what's statistically likely for someone with these characteristics, but can also include some unexpected nuance or contrast to make the persona feel real. Inputs, example values shown for structure, sex with variables, age range, geography, ethnicity, AI familiarity. That was one that we were doing. We're going to change this one to pizza engagement. And I've got some instructions about how to output the JSON. Again, like I said with the previous example, when you want to use this in production, you want to give a full example of your structure. So this JSON copy edit, actually that's bad paste, copy paste there. Let me go ahead and take that out. The output JSON format should have name with the name variable, narrative, and that 2 paragraph. And I have some constraints and style notes. Do not use last names. Keep the tone natural, authentic, and human. Avoid generic or overly polished language. Assume everyday life context unless otherwise implied, i.e. no high fantasy, sci-fi, etc. Include life circumstances, careers, or education details, worldview, and relevant lifestyle context. Do not mention the person is synthetic or part of a simulation. And do not explain the prompt or context, only return the JSON object. Cool. So that has worked well. And by the way, I use GPT to generate these. Like I was using, I think, O3, and I was back and forth saying, generate a prompt for me that does this and this, right? Like that wasn't a one shot that I just came up with. So, be thoughtful about how you do that. And then what we need to pass through, different than the other one, the second message is still a user message, but what we need to pass through are the variables from the Google Sheet that we got, which are sex. So I'm just going to say sex colon, and then we add the variable there. And then we're going to say age range colon, and we'll add that age range variable from our Google Sheet. Again, that's from our search columns or search rows option in the Google Sheets module. We will say ethnicity and add that. We will say education level. Add that. And finally, we will do pizza engagement like this, pizza engagement. Boom. So we have that. We also do want, let's close this, we do want to see the advanced settings because we also want this to respond as JSON. And I believe that was all we needed to tweak. We hit save, and look at that. It still wants to tell me my output tokens are empty. Great job, make.com. You can do it. I believe you can fix that one. Where did it go? It's hiding. Here it is. We click in, we hit save, and then it goes away. Don't let that bug trip you up. It tripped me up. I'm sure it's gotten a lot of others. So right then, we can go ahead and generate this. I'm not going to do it, though. I have confidence that this is set up right. We can debug it if we need to. So let's add the third and final module here. And what this is going to do is add another row, this time to a different sheet, right? So let's grab our spreadsheet ID again, just to make our life easy, in between the slashes there, the long jumbly one. And we're going to add this to the narratives. And so this is where we got to add some headers. Give me just a second and we will add those. But if we select from all, we specify same sheet or same spreadsheet ID, different sheet name, because this time we're adding it into narratives. Does the table contain headers? Yes, it does. Let me grab what those headers should be. And really, it's very simple. It's name and narrative because we told it to use just that structure. I'm going to spread this out because I know narrative will be fairly lengthy because I specified that it should be 2 paragraphs. So we are going to put, oh, you know what? You know what I haven't done yet? Here's an interesting thing to know about make.com. Look at this result here. I can't expand the result variable yet. You know why I can't expand it is make.com has never seen the result of my implementation here, right? So I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's hit save. And then what I like to do is I unlink this because what I don't want is like an error to pass data over here. I just need to run this so make.com can see what the structure is of this call. And then we can open up those variables. So here it's going and getting all 3 of my personas, 1, 2, 3. And what it's going to do is, and look, it'll pass 1 at a time, 1, 2, and 3 here. And you can see it ran it 3 times, 1 for each of the personas we had. And the result now is expandable because it saw the structure and it has a name, Doug, and it has a narrative. Okay, we're not going to get into that just yet. Let's see it in the final reveal. But now we can connect this back into OpenAI. We can come in here and we can actually, oh, you know what? I forgot something else. Here we go. Hold on. It's real world problems here, guys. This is debugging. So if I open this up, you know what I forgot? I forgot to tell it to parse the JSON. So I didn't have the variables available to just drop in easily. So let's see, JSON, yes, we want to parse. I knew I forgot a checkbox. Hopefully that's the last one. Let's go ahead and rerun this again, just so we can get the updated structure in its system. 1 and 2 and 3. One of the things that struck me as I started using this, graduating past the original, like just basic ChatGPT, how much the time matters for these calls, right? When you're just chatting in a thread, you have the patience because, what is 500 milliseconds to an individual chat? But when you're generating numbers of calls, and sometimes I'm in the thousands of these as you start to batch things, the time really starts to matter. So we're going to connect these. We're going to go down, and now our result variable is expandable into name and narrative. So we have name in A and narrative in B, and I'm going to hit save here. Save the entire scenario. I'm actually going to rename this. Don't forget to rename it. NRY. What was it? A narrative generator. Yep. Generator. Cool. And we hit save, and let's go ahead and run the whole shebang. And what you should see, which I enjoy doing this, is sit on this narrative tab. Oh, we already got Dennis. Dennis is our first narrative, and it's still running, and there'll be a second one. Tiana is our second narrative. We love to see it. And Marisol is number 3. Interesting. I didn't have Wilmington Island pass through there, and so I'm looking at where these people are. But let's run through this. Dennis says, I've been working maintenance at the local school district for the past 17 years. Before that, I bounced around a bit, did roofing, some landscaping, even worked second shift at a factory outside town. The school gig's been good to me, though. Decent benefits, steady hours, and I don't mind being on my feet. Everyone knows me around here, and I like the feeling that I keep the place running, even if the kids just see me as the guy with the keys. Got 2 kids of my own, both out of the house now. One's in the Navy, the other's waitressing in Des Moines. I'm proud of them, though I wouldn't mind seeing them more often. Right? This is why I call it a narrative, is because it's what AI is great at, is kind of filling in the gaps of these things, taking input and translating it to output. So now we have 3 narratives, and in future videos, we're going to show you how to actually speak with these people. How do you talk to Dennis and ask Dennis's opinions on things? But for the scope of this video, we've generated both persona characteristics, which, again, to recap, these are fairly random for this exercise, but you should bring in the reality. And using our GPT, you should be able to translate your kind of gut knowledge of your customer or your current perspective into a state that can be more systematic, and then translate over to even transcending ChatGPT and being in a data structure that you can use in infinite number of ways. If you've made it this far, thank you so much, and I hope that we achieved at least one of 2 things. 1, hopefully your eyes are open to the possibilities of getting beyond simple ChatGPT threads when it comes to systemizing your workflow with AI. 2, hopefully you're more comfortable actually using these tools for your own goals. If we're lucky, we might have hit both. Please do check out the full episode 7, where we introduce our future fluency framework, as well as digging into funnel strategy and Jungian archetype explorations. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode drop, and we'll see you next time.